Antarctica covers an area measuring 14 square kilometres. It is a white desert with a surface area greater than that of Europe. Its ice cap, measuring several million cubic metres, sits on a continent bordered by the Antarctic Ocean. This is the main difference between it and the Arctic, the North Pole, which is in fact a frozen ocean. Antarctica is the coldest, windiest, driest continent. By way of example, the interior only experiences half the rainfall of the hottest deserts. It is also the highest continent with an average altitude of 2,300 metres. It is dotted with the summits and mountain chains submerged in the distant past. 98% of this immense space is covered by a layer of ice up to 4,000 metres thick. Such extreme conditions prevent the development of life, except in very rare locations representing less than 1% of the total surface area. In some valleys in the interior, only microorganisms can survive. In contrast, 7,500 marine animal species have been recorded in its coastal areas. A sensitive, fragile, tense struggle for life. This special, fascinating environment boasts a wealth of special conditions favourable to scientific research. Under international administration, Antarctica has become one of the main research sites in the world. It has 50 bases. They host researchers from all over the world. This special modus operandi has been in place since 1959, introduced by the Antarctica Treaty, whose spirit was extended by the 1991 Madrid Agreement. In May 2008, Monaco became the 47th signatory state. In this capacity, and in response to the invitation from the scientific community, Prince Albert embarked on a historic trip in January 2009. A 17-day trek to meet the researchers, to follow in their footsteps, to use the same means of transport and to experience the same living conditions. Starting point, southern Chile, Punta Arenas to the west, one of the gateways to the Antarctica Peninsula and neighbouring islands. The Chilean Polar Institute has been developing its research programme for several decades. The focus has been on 4 areas: climate change, fauna, microorganisms and geology, with annual funding of $3.5 million. Over 1,000 kilometres to the south of Cape Horn, 200 kilometres to the northeast of the White Continent, lies the Shetland Archipelago, a remarkable site. "150 million years ago, the region was attached to South America. Today we find the same rocks and plants with an identical genetic heritage along the coasts of the 2 continents, which are separate today. On land and sea, flora and fauna flourish in the form of specially adapted species, microorganisms, seaweed, mosses or lichen, penguins and other varieties of birds, sea lions, elephant seals. The largest island is King George Island. It's 75 kilometres long. The complex is known as the Eduardo Frei Base, run by the Chilean Air Force. With 200 inter- and intracontinental flights, Frei is used to bring all logistics resources to the bases, of which there are nearly 20 established in the sector. Some just a few hundred metres away, other a few hundred kilometres away. 22 nationalities cooperate in transversal projects and help each other on a daily basis. O'Higgins, on the peninsula, over 200 kilometres from Frei, is another Chilean station in the Bransfield Strait region, which has been developed since 1948. The German satellite station GARS was created in 1991. It comprises a radio telescope capable of receiving radio waves several thousand light years away. It's also used to observe the Earth. It controls observation satellites. They monitor changes in certain Arctic areas where glaciers are located, whose movement is accelerating. On King George Island and around the latter, new stations are being built, old ones expanded. Increasingly sophisticated technologies are appearing and are often shared in order to optimize research resources. Earth science and atmosphere science are multidisciplinary fields comprising synergistic areas of study. Antarctica has become something of a vast laboratory, working to understand climate change mechanisms in particular.
The problem is attracting more and more the interest of politicians and of the public opinion. The public opinion is more aware now that in Antarctica is the key to many questions that need to be answered in the near future. I think it's very important and not very common that a head of state decides to visit Antarctica and to take such a keen interest in getting to know all aspects of what we do. I don't have the time all the time to go and see the Russian leader or the Chinese leader. We are too busy here, and sometimes we lose sight that it is important to talk to everybody, and it is important to see what we can achieve together, because we are perhaps duplicating science sometimes. Cooperation is extremely important, and the visit has been very interesting from that point of view, talking to everybody. You are bringing Antarctic science to the public eye, and that is very important. It's very important for people to be aware of what we are doing here, and it is for the benefit of mankind. That's what we are here for.
To this end, the Chilean Polar Institute organises children's trips to Antarctica several times a year to explain the researchers' work, as the Sovereign saw on his visit. Less spectacular than in the Arctic, the consequences of climate change in the Antarctic are nonetheless tangible. In Bellingshausen, Russian researchers are developing flora research programs. In particular, they are studying lichen that is a cross between seaweed and fungi on King George Island. Over 300 varieties have been recorded.
You can look in the microscope.
We study contemporary, how they survive here, what physiological, biological and different mechanisms help them to survive. I visited this area 20 years ago for my first visit to Antarctica, and in that time I remember that, for example, here the vegetation was different. We can see also some changing which are connected with the global warming.
Ce lichen, qui est une association entre une algue et un champignon très spécifique, c'est pour ça qu'il y a plusieurs espèces, est très sensible à son environnement, sensible aux précipitations, sensible aux températures, sensible aux polluants également. Ce sont des organismes qui accumulent énormément de polluants très facilement. Et donc, lorsque leur environnement change, ces organismes sont obligés de s'adapter à ce changement. Et cette adaptation peut se traduire à travers des changements de couleur, des changements de forme. Lorsque les conditions sont très très froides, eh bien, les lichens ont une couleur noirâtre qui permettent d'accumuler la chaleur. Avec le réchauffement climatique, eh bien, certains chercheurs constatent que certaines espèces de lichens s'éclaircissent, deviennent moins noires, et ça traduit en fait une adaptation un petit peu à un changement de leur environnement. Et aujourd'hui, paradoxalement, on a un double effet avec le réchauffement climatique. On a un début de précipitations pluvieuses pluvieuse en Antarctique, donc qui est favorable à la croissance de ces lichens. Et inversement, on a aussi un retrait des glaciers, un retrait des névés. Et donc, on va avoir à terme aussi une diminution de cette disponibilité en eau pour les organismes. Et donc, c'est une balance entre ces deux phénomènes qui font qu'aujourd'hui, les lichens sont effectivement des bons indicateurs sur le changement climatique.
In the 50 years since the signing of the treaty, Antarctica has become a sanctuary dedicated to research which must be preserved. It is for this reason that all man-made sites have to comply with very strict norms to limit the impact of human activity, including scientific research on the environment. All waste, without exception, is sorted, packaged, processed in situ or sent to recycling plants. Here in the Chilean station of Escudero, next to Bellingshausen, extra special care is taken as it is home to nearly 100 people. Patriot Hill is situated on the continent, over 1,000 kilometres from the South Pole, out past the Shetlands and the Peninsula, at the base of the Ellsworth mountain chain. It is an obligatory stopping-off point on the way to the pole. It can only be accessed by large transporter planes which land on a natural landing surface, the Blue Ice Strip. Patriot Hill is a temporary base camp in operation during the Antarctic summer from November to February. It hosts members of different expeditions, including scientists, explorers and mountaineers. It is a transit and preparation zone before pushing on deeper into the heart of the continent.
Yeah, we are at Patriot Hills, the largest privately run base in Antarctica, and it's one of only 3 bases in Antarctica with no sea access, so it's completely supplied by air. We have a staff of about 20 people here at any one time. We've got another up to about 10 guides and staff working on Mount Vinson, and a number of guides running expeditions out skiing towards the South Pole.
The base is a tent village pitched around a main building used as a canteen. Everyone waits for a favourable break in the weather in order to set off on their big journey. A few hours before returning to the continent, Jefferson Simos explains the importance of the influence of the polar regions on the Earth's climate. January 2009, he has just completed a 40-day expedition heading a small Brazilian team on Mount Patriot. The ice samples taken on this occasion will enable climatic variations dating back over the past 500 years to be analysed. It was the first Brazilian expedition to the heart of the continent. The guides share their memories and offer their advice to all, team members or not.
This morning, and so we're waiting. It'll be very interesting to see this evening when we have new forecasting information, whether that goes back to something that we had yesterday, which gives us more chance of flying with Aleutian in the next day or so, or whether it confirms this morning's big change.
Outside, a gusty wind blows practically all the time. It is a mass of cold air which sweeps down the sides of the mountain, hitting the slightly warmer air at ground level, which speeds it up. The wind can exceed 200 kilometers an hour. It's just one sign of the continent's harshness, its inhospitable nature. At Patriot Hill, we size up the conditions ahead. We acclimatise. It's also time for last-minute preparations, final technical checks, and to pack the equipment. The wind grows ever stronger, the conditions on the ground difficult. Only twin otters can make it to the South Pole. This is the route that the Monegasque sovereign must take to meet up with his friend, the environmentalist explorer Mike Horn. He has been making his way across the continent for the past 40 days.
Pour moi, c'était un moment que peut-être jamais j'oublierai ces moments de ma vie parce que c'est la première fois que je partage une expédition avec des gens. Normalement, je suis une solitaire. Et puis d'avoir un avion après presque 42 jours de solitude sur la glace et puis d'avoir Prince Albert dans l'avion et puis d'approcher du pôle avec lui, pour moi, c'est un moment qu'on ne peut pas oublier de notre vie.
Mike Horn goes on expeditions of this type lasting up to 4 years at a time. He set off from Monaco in May 2008 aboard his icebreaker. His Pangea project will take him around the world on a campaign to make the general public, in particular younger generations, aware of the need to protect the planet. On this Antarctic leg he is joined by Nicholas aged 18 and Clemence aged 20, who set off from Punta Arenas to ski with him, and the explorer Borge Usland. Prince Albert shares this commitment to young people through the work of his foundation, also through his personal involvement and his desire to pass on his experiences. Several conference call events have been organised via live link from Antarctica, with pupils from primary schools, junior and senior high schools back in the Principality of Monaco to debate the scientific trip in an interesting way.
Aucun traité n'est parfait, mais je trouve que le traité de l'Antarctique est un petit peu un modèle.
And now, the real test, huh?
The team slowly make headway. Head-on wind forcing them to struggle to make progress. The temperature plummets. The thermometer drops to minus 40 degrees. The horizon and land merge. The effort is not helped by the altitude, 2,500 meters, but the scarcity of the oxygen makes it feel as if they're at an altitude of 4,000 meters. A host of challenging conditions to cope with over the 2-day ski.
Fine. My hands and feet are fine. Body's okay, but can't do a faster pace because it's got to get used to the altitude. Going to the South Pole. Yes. And we got, I think, about 8 kilometers to go now. And 5 hours to do it in. So I think we're in pretty good shape.
un moment assez fort.